Hello and welcome to Mind the Flat with me, Chris Heffernan.
Me, Amy Isles.
And me, Tom Crowther.
And today's episode is called Act Your Age, where we'll be discussing whether it's best to be a child, an adult, or a pensioner. But before we start that, we're going to start with having a little reminisce, well, not really a reminisce, a reflection on our most childish moments. Okay, so Amy, do you want to kick us off with what you think is your most childish moment, or one of?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's my most childish moment, but I went and visited my cousin Nathan in Kent a few weeks ago, and we went on a little pub crawl around a few pubs in Canterbury where he's at uni. Got quite merry, and at the end of the night, we're very close to my cousin, and we were just mucking around, and there was this really long street, and I decided it would be a good idea for him to give me a piggyback down this street on the way home. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So I jumped on his back, and he starts running, and he's quite tall, and I feel myself getting closer and closer to the ground.
Is that because you were falling?
It was because we were falling.
Never heard it described that way before. We were laterally moving towards.
Well, I was quite drunk at the time, so I was like, why does
is
it
the
feel
earth
like...
coming towards me?
Yeah. And I don't think at the time I realised how far I rolled. He hit the floor, like, face first, planted it. I, like, rolled off his back and just kept rolling down this street. And then I kind of looked up, and he was, like, 10 feet behind me. And I just rolled down this street. And
Brilliant.
I did injure my arm a little bit, and he had a bit of a bloody nose. Then we just sat up and looked at each other, and we were like, that was a bit stupid, wasn't it?
I remember all those times when I was a child when I got absolutely trolleyed and
I was just
fell down
thinking
the street.
that. Yeah.
No, but
It's so childish.
What a childhood you had, Amy.
all the time, just on the gin every weekend.
Right, go on then, Tom. Your childish happenings.
Mine is not in the past. Mine is forever. It's constant. It's going on as we speak.
Ongoing.
The other flatmate and myself are engaged at this point in a speaker wars. We've both got so I've got a Google Home and he's got an Amazon Echo
And other speakers are available in all good shops.
retailers.
We're not at the BBC yet, Chris. And we like to connect to each other's speakers from the other room and just blast out music.
Oh, not just music though, is it? It's a wide variety of stuff.
Music. I've had people screaming because their arms are being cut off. Or at least that's what I expect it to be.
I was quietly writing my essay the other day, and I just hear screams coming from downstairs, and then I was like, "Oh, it's the speaker war."
We've had classics like Baby Shark. Yeah, that's
Absolutely
trying to
true.
write an essay and having that blasted through the room. So yeah, that's childish and ongoing childishness, I think. What about you, Chris?
Me. Well, I'm going to go for something that happened. I felt very childish when we were at The Botanist, which is a bar in Bristol. And again, there are other bars in Bristol that people could vacate if they wanted to. And I wanted a J2O, which is my drink of choice. And they didn't have any. Oh, no? Okay.
No, I don't feel sad for you.
And so I asked for as near as they could manage to an apple and mango drink. And all they could produce was a carton that can't have been given to anyone in months because they didn't really know it existed.
I hope they hadn't given that one to anyone. Or was you drinking second-hand mango juice?
So there's been a mould floating on the top.
At the back of this fridge came out this small carton of mango juice, which, that was it. They didn't give me a glass. They didn't even attempt to adultify said drink. It was just given to me with a straw.
So we were all sat there with our cocktails and there's
Yeah.
you sipping away
From your straw.
like with your packed lunch.
I've got to say, this actually happened to me quite a bit because I went somewhere else once and everyone had drinks and everyone's drinks arrived with a black straw, which I consider to be the adult straw.
Brilliant.
The sort of, it is, isn't it? It's more grown up if you have a black straw. And I
I'm
got
so sophisticated with
the
black straw.
exactly, it's the sophisticated straw. I got the good old ones which are white with a line of colour down them.
Classic.
Everybody on the table, all the same age, got black
You
ones.
could say that you got
Apart from me.
drawn the short straw.
Oh.
You're good. Very good, Tom. Well, I'm always getting accused of being a child.
You do look like one.
Mm.
Like when I go and buy petrol.
Didn't you get mistaken? Didn't someone ask you for ID for paracetamol once?
No, it was worse than that. It was not a paracetamol. It was for a cough medicine mixture.
Oh, yeah.
And they asked me what age I wanted it for. And I just thought, well, surely it isn't like 21 to 25. I was like, the adult version? And they went, it's not for you then. And I was like, yeah, it is. I'm an adult. And they looked me up and down and just went, of course you are.
Oh, that's savage.
I was like, yes I am. Okay.
Do you want to see my ID?
And they gave me the cough medicine. But yeah. So my life is just constantly being mistaken for a child. Boom, boom, boom. Mind the flat. Boom, boom, boom. So then, on to the main argument where we are discussing, is it best to be a child, an adult, or a pensioner? And so I will kick us off, I suppose, as that makes most sense, as childhood happens first. So why is it best to be a child?
You tell us, Chris. We're waiting.
I really hope you've got some answers.
That was it. I just did my argument's going to be a rhetorical question this week.
Let's just all sit and think, listeners.
So if we all take 5 minutes, everyone think of their best ideas and say them out loud, and then we'll proceed. It's interactive. So, childhood, I think, the first thing, is fun. And I think the key thing of the fun comes from, you haven't got any shame, really, as a child. You've got no restrictions. You just go for things.
Yeah.
If you want to go and run around that park as an aeroplane, you go and be an aeroplane. If you want to climb a monkey climbing frame and go, ooh, ah, 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 ooh, ah, and pretend to be a monkey, it's fine. Nobody is going to look at you and go, ooh, oh, they're not quite,
It's a bit embarrassing.
oh dear. They just go, oh, aren't they having fun? Whereas if I were to go to a children's playground,
You know, you could do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. If you want to go and hang from a climbing
This is just
frame like a
Chris's,
monkey,
like, pent-up desires he's getting out now.
just do it. The only thing that's stopping you is your fear of other people's judgment.
exactly. But that's why being older you've lost that, because as a child you never worry about that. And then the same thing with that then is you can be anything you want to be. You could be. You
Apart
can.
from an adult.
No, but you can. But you can be. You can pretend to be an adult. You can play teachers. You can be an astronaut. You can be a prince or a princess. You
We can
do.
tell Chris studies a theatre degree.
You can just be. There's all these hopes and these dreams and this potential, which I think is just so exciting about being a child.
Given that choice, do you know what I used to be when
Go on then.
my sister and I used to play this game? I can't remember what it was like camper vans or something, and I pretty much would get my atlas out and I would plan a route across the world, and then I'd just make her sit on the bed whilst I just sat there driving the camper van, and she just had to be quiet.
Oh.
But I'd plan the route out. I'd be like, oh, we're gonna somehow drive to New Zealand or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
See, isn't that
Just,
that sounds like
just the
fun.
organisational side. I just like the planning, pretty much.
What's
The act-
changed?
The actual playing the game just consisted of me sat on a chair and my sister sat on a bed.
So I then thought of fun things that I wish were still more readily available to me.
More readily available.
Indoor play areas.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's a good shout.
Now, going to an indoor play area with a group of friends,
It's like another world, isn't it?
and
when
you
you're a
like
kid?
play it, don't you? And you just chase
Yeah.
each other. And I can vividly remember it sort of. This is going to be really hard to explain to listeners, so I'm going to use my hands, and you can try and translate it for the listeners. So it sort of goes down like that, and there's a gap.
So Chris is doing a downward
And then it goes
diagonal
down again.
with his hand, and then he's doing a
And so it's
zigzag
sort of,
in the other
it's
direction.
basically like loads of
It's like a
levels
zigzag.
that have all slightly fallen down, and so you
Yeah.
can slide from one level to the other. And I
Yeah.
can vividly remember scrambling up them to get away from the person that's about to attack you and kill you forever. And I mean, it's just exciting. And I can confirm that there is actually a play area in Portsmouth where you can go for an adults only night.
Right.
Okay?
How is there direct train from Bristol to Portsmouth.
So
Let's
it is
go.
something I really want to do because I've discussed it with Naomi, but we felt that just two of you,
It's a bit weird.
It's not quite right.
Mate, we'll get this organised.
but I think
So
more of
down.
us going. You head down there. I've already looked. There's a very cheap hotel nearby,
Brilliant.
and
When are we going?
I mean, isn't it exciting? And
Lovely weekend trip
Why-
to the soft play area.
Why did you not do this for your 21st?
I know.
Like,
But I mean, that I think is really exciting. Bouncy castles, okay? I love a good bouncy castle, okay?
I've never been a fan because it's like, because you go on a trampoline and
Yeah.
it's like, great, I can jump and I could probably fly out the top of this and
Yep.
it'd be great. But on a bouncy castle, you have to put real effort into jumping
but
in order to get anywhere.
bouncy slides.
Yeah.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Oh, yes.
Jump off at the top.
Oh,
Bounce on your
you
bum all the way
rule
down.
breaker.
Oh, they're
Don't
brilliant.
jump!
Oh, I'm jumping. I'm not listening to you.
Don't
I'm a
jump,
northern
Emma.
lass.
Don't jump. You'll hurt yourself.
And then my last one was party food. Like, I am a massive, massive fan. And you can still have it as an
I
adult.
can't get behind that.
But you don't get it as much.
It's
Party
naff, though.
rooms.
It's just
But I think
things that people with too much, like busy parents that can't be bothered to, not can't be bothered, but don't have the time to cook or make something actually nice. It's
Oh,
just
I
adult
love
party
short for-
food, it like as you get older and your tastes develop, you get adult party food, which is just a nicer version of kids' party.
But then there
food.
aren't enough parties. There aren't enough of those
Special.
sorts. I think they're saying great about. Like, I would love to be able to still have a children's style party now. Pass the parcel, murder in the dark, oranges and lemons, like all these things where they're proper games and you have fun and then there's food, as opposed to just going somewhere, getting really drunk and then not remembering it.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you there.
So-
like,
Yeah, but I think you can do that
20
without naff food, though, can't you? Without bland.
Yeah, so you
plain
don't have to.
food.
I love the food. I love party food. I adore it. But just also the idea of a children's party is a lot of fun. And I mean, you get a party bag. Often, not great, but also you get cake to take home. You don't go to parties nowadays and get cake to take home. No one has a cake.
You had a cake. Hang on a second.
No, at my party. But I mean, when you go to these.
But that was quite sophisticated. Like, your 21st was great. We did a murder mystery night. We had that fun element of the game for the murder mystery, and we did play Murder in the Dark afterwards.
Yeah.
The food was beautiful.
So yeah,
that
but
was
I mean,
fun.
we were doing things there. Didn't we all enjoy hide and seek?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got to admit that we did.
And isn't that really like a child's activity?
We can play an adult version of hide and... No.
Oh.
We did
Oh
play an
my
adult version
word.
of hide and seek. No. Oh my gosh, this podcast has just gone down a very different route.
I'm struggling to understand how you can play an adult version of hide and seek.
It would have to be like naked sardines, wouldn't it? That you sort of arrive at the location and just
Oh,
gradually
let me
the
squeeze in
party
there.
just builds up. So there you go. I think the big thing for me is this idea of fun and you just this ability to sort of let it all out.
Yeah.
And I think the final point, all linked together to this idea of fun, is tantrums.
Oh,
so-
no, they're so embarrassing.
No, but this is the thing. But okay, think how much better. Okay, a child doesn't realise it's embarrassing. You have a massive cry. You get really annoyed at people. You go ah, and you get it all out. And you get up. Oh, that's fine. And you walk off like nothing's happened, and it's gone. All that has gone. And as a child, you can get away with that.
I don't know. I look back on tantrums I had when I was little, and I was like, oh, what a little brat I was.
But now you do. But as a child, you didn't care.
I did, because my mum used to tell me off, and then I'd be really sad.
Also, I think we've all also missed out the idea that bullying as a child can be really horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know to what extent you two were on that side of things, but I'm going to play the little violin card at this point. Primary school wasn't a great time for me. Neither was most of secondary school, and so childhood for me was getting splashed with water and tied to the lift in the school
Oh, Tom.
so that I
Tied
couldn't
to
get
the
out.
lift?
Yeah.
Oh, Tom.
So how are you tied to the lift?
They got my bag and tied me to my bag and then tied my bag to the lift so I can get out.
Oh, I want to give you a hug, but I know you're not a hug person.
No, don't
but
hug me.
I'm going to impart the...
Oh gosh.
sympathy.
It's what kids do, isn't it?
That's true,
So,
yeah. When
there's
kids
an-
are mean.
There's an
they're
unequal
mean.
distribution of having fun as a child because some love it because they could do what they like. Some love it because no one cares about them. They're not the bully or the bullied. Whereas those that sadly fall on my side of that little triangle, we don't get much joy.
And the other thing is,
So
you
you
can't
had
do...
no joy your entire childhood.
No, it was horrible. I used to eat dust. And
You used to live in Hull in the middle of the road.
no, there were
Another
obviously
classic
good things
sketch.
about being a child, but
Yeah.
it's not all fun and games.
No, fair
You
enough.
have
So
to
Yeah.
remember, and I think I'm going to take this forward into adulthood.
go on then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is still some nastiness involved with adults, but I feel like it's more insidious, but maybe muted. But I'm going to move away from the nastiness and we'll bring it on a slightly more light-hearted note. As an adult, and not as a child, definitely, and probably not as a pensioner, sex—that's a thing that you can do.
I'm just going to put this out here. I don't think just because you're a pensioner means
Oh,
it has to all be over.
absolutely.
I mean, let's just say, I'm certainly hoping
I'm
that
planning on
it's not going to
carrying
end. I don't think a certain age
We
means
just put it out there now.
if you can still move.
You can still...
Brilliant, absolutely.
Oh,
agree.
that's another one. It's the only period of the 3 where, for all of it, you get to dress yourself. You get to pick your own clothes.
Hang on, I think you've got a very...
I said for all of it.
Oh, for
For
all,
all of
okay.
being a pensioner, you don't get to dress yourself. For all
Don't you?
Oh, I don't know. Some people, it depends
Why
how
not?
you die. Sorry, that just took a very dark turn.
If you're on care or something, you don't really get to.
Yeah,
not
but
all
some-
pensioners are...
Some just one day go to bed and die. So
I'm pretty sure my nan dressed herself for all of her life.
Okay, fine. I just don't know how many pensioners then.
Tom's image of pensioners are
Just
sort of these
senile.
skeletal people sort of sitting in a chair going, "What day is it?" that's all
Can we
they
just
think.
point out as well, our fathers, mine and Chris's, are both pensioners.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, yeah, for all of it. Okay,
I didn't
fair
say
point.
your
Yeah,
parents
okay.
can't dress themselves.
So anyway,
Okay.
do you find it then? 'cause
That was
I'm
a
ju-
flippant one, by the way, as well. And
Also-
I love how you've run with this and taken it very seriously.
But also just thinking about it, sometimes I find it quite a stressful process. You're waking up in the morning, opening the wardrobe, what am I going to wear? Because
Hang on, having sex or getting dressed?
Mum, I don't know what to put where. What do I do? It's so stressful.
why would I be opening the wardrobe
Socks in both
to deal with
sexes.
that?
To know.
To get dressed, obviously. I'm talking about getting dressed
Into
and
what?
clothed.
Into what,
Yeah.
Mr. Heffernan?
And it can be a stressful process choosing what to wear. So actually, with a child, when it's just laid out on the bed for you and it's sort of put that on, then all that stress is just alleviated.
Okay.
Unless your parents dress you in the like the most embarrassing outfit ever.
Yeah, I'm very
Yeah,
lucky
you don't have a
that
lot of agency when you're a kid.
my mum has a very good sense of style, although she did allow me as a child to pick some very poor fashion choices for myself.
Michael and I had matching outfits.
Oh, you were one of those.
Oh, that scares me.
We had one matching outfit.
Oh, no.
Wow.
With like dark blue trousers and a yellow striped top thing.
Wow.
There's a picture of us at Christmas in them.
Oh, kind of cute.
I guess another thing, in the same vein as the dressing yourself thing,
Yep.
full control of bodily functions. So, that's another one. Oh, I need the toilet.
But not all the time. When you're a bit drunk and inebriated sometimes.
Yeah, make a good
Not
point.
from personal experience. I'm just going to point that out there.
No, mine is from personal experience. I have experienced that.
Oh God, I haven't yet.
I
Yeah,
haven't yet.
I mean, I'm not gonna.
many adult days ahead of you. But I'm not picking the greatest arguments, am I? You can
can
go to
dress
the
yourself.
toilet and you can wear clothes.
You can have sex.
Adulthood is exciting, isn't it?
But I guess there's also the idea of independence. Like, you can put your money wherever you want. You can, if you want to gorge on cookies all day, you can do that. If you want to sit and watch films, you can do that.
But can you? Like,
yeah, I
a
think
child,
more
but a child actually could sit all day and watch TV, and stuff would still happen. Whereas if an adult decided, right, I'm just going to sit and watch TV, what's going to happen to the house, the
but you
bills,
can make the
the money?
You can make the choice to do that. Is what
Yeah,
I'm
but then
saying.
that choice is
Yeah, but
empty.
As a child, if you really want to sit and eat cookies all day,
Yep.
and you go, I want to do that, but your parents go, we don't have any cookies, we're not buying you any cookies, you're going to eat this carrot, and
What What a childhood Tom had.
Carrot.
He's a carrot.
But yeah, if your parents don't want you sitting eating a whole pack of Maryland cookies, then
Maryland. They're Maryland cookies.
Maryland.
We've had this debate. They're Maryland
I
cookies.
haven't been in it. When was this debate?
It was at work.
Okay.
Because they're actually a British company.
Maryland.
So it would be said
Oh.
Maryland. Maryland would be the American way of saying it. Like the
Maryland.
state. So it's Maryland cookies.
Okay. Well, this is getting very tense. So I'm going to say that, although you have that agency when you're an adult, you've got a lot of responsibility to go with, and I think that's the point you're getting to, Chris. You've got to go. If you want to support a family, you've got to go and work, which takes up a large amount of your time.
And a large amount of adulthood.
Yeah.
Is working.
But responsibility, but that can be towards good causes. Like you can do, I think, as well. You have the most amount of time and the best like physical and mental capabilities of your whole life, and so you can do some really great things if you want to go and dedicate your life to saving the donkeys.
And there is the argument our other flatmate thought you were going to make.
Is it you can do something. You can vote. You can make change. Like you obviously you can still vote as a pensioner, but certainly not as a child. But you have the best years of your life to really go and make a difference. And I think that's probably another big thing. So yes, you've got responsibility, but that responsibility is paired inherently with being able to make a change.
But kind of moving on to my side now, I think you've still got all of that as a pensioner, but you don't have to work. You have so much more time to do the things you want to do. Like my dad, your dad as well, Chris, is
My
retired.
dad still works.
Oh, yeah, he does. Sorry, Tony.
He just went into a new job. He left.
We'll never stop.
As in, he left his actual job and then created a new job for himself.
I know what you mean now. Fair enough.
Would you like to explain?
My dad now does odd jobs, so if you are in the Surrey area and need odd
Bit of
jobs
advertising.
doing, just send us a message and I'll send him round.
He's very good. He helped out in the flat quite a lot last year. But that for him is what he wants to do.
Yes.
And he doesn't have to do that if he doesn't want to. But that's what he has chosen to do with his retirement. And I was talking to my mum earlier on FaceTime, and I was saying to her, we're doing this podcast on at different ages, and I'm arguing for pensioners, and she was like, it's the best job your dad's ever had. And you don't have that. My dad always says the best thing about being retired is not having that feeling on a Sunday night of dread, like, for goodness sake, I've got to go to work tomorrow morning. Like, his time is his now, and he's worked for 40 years of his life, and he's finally got the chance to go, I can play golf 3 times a week. I can go and volunteer on my steam railway. He's free to do what he wants to do now because he doesn't have to work. And to be honest, they look like they're living it up. Sometimes I think they've got a better social life than I have.
I guess it does depend what kind of the experience you have as a pensioner, though. If you have a good pension and that sort of thing, then you're gonna have a good. But if you weren't lucky enough to find yourself in a job with a good pension scheme or something like that, it might be a struggle
And a lonely time as well.
Yeah, very lonely, very cold.
Because you don't have the reason to go out, and some people just don't see anyone.
But I think that is a choice it's a choice you make. Because
I don't know if it is all the time.
not all the time.
Because if your family, so let's say like you've got kids, but your kids have moved away, and you have to make an effort, but also other people need to make an effort. And if no one else is making an effort, and you've fallen out of contact, then it is quite tough.
But I think one of the things my dad really focused on when he first retired was not getting into a state where he's just in the house all day, kind of doing nothing. He was like, I want to go and join a golf club because of that social side, and you make friends through that way. And my grandma, who lives in a very, very tiny village in Lincolnshire, she has a great social life because she's got all her friends around her who she's like known for ages. And I think in some ways you get closer to those people because you realise with age who your real friends are, and then you realise who you want to make the effort with, and then they make the effort back because they're in a similar situation.
I've got to say, I'm looking forward to bingo days. Yeah, when you go along to
I
bingo.
can so imagine you at bingo.
I love bingo.
I can't wait for that day.
I'm looking forward to that.
You can play bingo now. Again, much like all the childhood things, you're separating these in your own head. You can play bingo, you can hang from a climbing frame, you can go get a job.
Yeah,
you
but
can do anything you like.
you can't really, can you?
It's not socially acceptable,
No,
which is wrong.
I mean, if I turned up to bingo, I'd just get hounded by all the old ladies.
I know they'd love you because you look like a
Oh,
child.
hello, it's so lovely to see you.
I'm so handsome.
I wouldn't actually get a chance to play bingo.
I think you maybe value yourself a little too highly there.
Oh, scathing.
It's like, oh, I'm so beloved by the...
They just fawed over me, head over heels.
That's all I did at work. I just got money off old people because they thought I was like their grandson.
Aww.
That was my unique selling point. So as it was someone that was 25, I was like, oh no, what am I going to say to them?
They're only 4 years older than me, but I've got more in common with the older person than...
Yeah.
So what do we reckon then, guys?
See, I think the thing is, the exciting thing about being a pensioner now is, it's a difficult balance because we could end up working longer, and so we may not be able to become pensioners until we're 70.
Yeah.
And it's all very well saying that sort of healthcare is better and all that, but the massive thing with Alzheimer's and dementia, that is not curable, and it does seem that our brains can only manage for so long. And so it's all very well saying, well, you work till 70 because you're going to live all the way to 90, but what if when you live to 90 you're only surviving, say, till 81 with your brain as you know it?
I don't know how many people I haven't looked into this. How many people does dementia affect? Because my great grandma lived until she was 91, and she was still.
Well,
but her body
I think the thing is,
which was really sad.
It's on the rise, which I think people say is because more people are getting older.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, that it is something associated with old age. And so I think, wow, the sort of from say you do retire at 65, and you've got till 80 now, I would say, even 85 at this current moment, where you're still quite fit and able. I think that's quite exciting, and
Absolutely.
I think you've got lots of the components of, like, you have grandchildren often, and I think that can be quite exciting. That sort of ability to be a parent and a sort of a youngest adult, but you've still got that distance. So I think there's lots of exciting bits there. But then you've got to be lucky.
But I think
in the physicality.
With that, kind of knowing you're reaching that point where time is running out effectively, impending death is ahead. You get to a point, and I've seen this with my parents, not that they're going to, well, touch wood, not that they disappear anytime soon, but with my grandma as well, they get to a point where they're just like, you know what, stuff it, I'm going to go out and live my life to the fullest point because life is short. And they've made that decision now. They've worked their whole lives. My grandma, bless her, worked so hard during her life, and we all say to her now, and she's got to the point where she's like, I've got money in the bank. If I want to go on a 30-day long cruise, I'm going to go and spend it. And she lives her life for the moment.
It's just like being a child again.
Pretty much. And it's fantastic to watch as well, because you see them see opportunities and take them, because life is short.
I think an interesting thing here is, if you asked people from each of these categories what they would most want to be, like, whether if ask a child, would you rather be a child, an adult, or a pensioner, they'd more than likely say adult.
Yeah.
If you asked an adult, would you rather be a child or a pensioner, they're going to say a child. And if you ask a pensioner, they're probably going to say a pensioner.
So I wonder, would an adult say a child, or I suppose it's just where you get in adulthood, because I think some adults probably would go, I'd like to retire. I think lots of adults get to a certain age where,
I guess we're very much
the
talking
looking
about
is on
adults, young adults, as opposed
So I see young adults probably would look back, but I think slightly older adults are looking forward to thinking, I'm going to get to that retirement. But then would some older people think, I want to go back to being a child? Like, I think especially...
No one's happy with what they've got.
But I think that's the thing, because I think when you get older, there's that thing of, oh, my knees ache. oh, I can't quite move in this, or you go out and you see, oh, look at that person running along, oh. And I think then there is that desire to go back to childhood. I think there is this sort of circle of we always want to get back to
It's the circle of life.
the other one. But also what we haven't said is adulthood is completely and utterly necessary for the successful years of being a pensioner. That without all that you do in adulthood and all that you strive for, then being a pensioner is no good.
Yeah, this is true.
And then there was a survey at Cambridge, the University of Cambridge did some research that said if you're a happy child, you're a lot more likely to be a happy adult.
Oh, maybe that describes my moroseness. But I'm thinking as well, and maybe this is a bit of a cop-out, but as a child, you can be a child, but then you also have being an adult and being a pensioner to come.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's the best one, because you've still got all three. Technically, that's like the best of it, best of all three worlds, maybe. But as a pensioner,
it's gone.
you can't turn back time.
I suppose that is the thing.
No, stop singing.
You start me off now.
I think that is it. I think that we have fairly established, like we often do, that all of them have their wonderful benefits.
Brilliant.
But
If they didn't, it wouldn't make a podcast, would it? It would just be sat here trashing two and going, well, clearly there's one that works.
But yeah, that childhood is the one where you get them all eventually. You wouldn't want to skip an age, would you, really?
I think you've got to live, as I said, you've got to live life in the moment. Appreciate Oh, you two are looking at me like, oh.
Oh, I agree.
I can't sit through this. Oh, carpe diem.
Seize the
Live
day.
life in the moment. Nah.
No, but honestly, I find since I've been at uni, I've found that like having that positive mental attitude, just I'm at the happiest stage I think I've ever been, which is quite nice so far.
Only down from here then.
I know, that's what I keep thinking. I'm like, I don't want to graduate, but yeah, I just keep thinking like you've just got to appreciate every moment of life. And yeah, some bits aren't as good, but if you look at the good bits and really appreciate them, I think whatever stage of life you're at.
All the chocolate from Easter. That's a great thing about right now.
Tom's looking at me like, oh god.
What a load of shit.
That's very rude, Tom. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you very much for listening.
And if you want to get in contact, you can find us on Facebook. We're Mind the Flat Podcast.
On Twitter, we're at mindtheflat_pod.
And Instagram at mindtheflat_podcast.
And if you want to respond to anything we've said in this episode or suggest a topic for another week, you can head to our Reddit. That's r/mindtheflat.
Or alternatively, you can drop us an email at mindtheflatpodcast@gmail.com.